This is a demo on how to use the Zoom H4N digital audio recorder. There's also a few microphones and peripherals, as you can see, laying around the recorder, which is right here. We'll show you basically how to use all of those as well. But to start off with, let's just go into the functions of the Zoom H4N. This is the Zoom H4N digital audio recorder. Together with this set, you'll see is the carrying case, which we'll put up to the side for now. We also have this USB cable. So when you want to get your files off of the recorder, you can either use the cable or you can take the SD card out. If you're going to use the cable, you basically plug it into the side here, and then you're going to plug that into your laptop or into your computer. But we won't use that for now. Just put this also off to the side. Okay, so let me just show you some of the functions or these various buttons before we actually get into using the device. So first of all, let's flip this around. Let's look to the back part. If we open up the slide compartment in the back, this is where you actually have your batteries. It's 2 AA batteries that you're going to put in there. There's this little tab that you can just pull up right here. That pops the batteries out. That makes it easier for you to put new ones in. There's a stamina button here. I would recommend always keeping it to the right, so not in the on position, keeping it over to the right side, because when you have the stamina on, it limits some of the functions that we can use on the menu setting later on. As I mentioned, this does work with an SD card. So if you pop open this little compartment right here on this side, this has a little spring activation, so you push the SD card in, and that's the card here. So if you want to, you can either take this out and put it directly into your computer or your laptop. If your computer or laptop doesn't have an SD card reader and you don't have a card reader with you, then I guess you will have to use the cable, the USB cable that you'll plug into the side and download your files that way. Okay, there are lots of places or lots of microphones inputs that we can use to record audio to this digital audio recorder. The 2 built-in mics are right on top here. This is a left channel and right channel. That means we have stereo, left and right. I would recommend there are these settings right here where you can either have it at 90 degrees or you can twist it to 120 degrees. Probably keep these both at 90 if you're going to use these microphones right here as your input audio device or audio signal, rather than changing it to 120, because then it'll slightly change the sound a little bit from your left or your right channel. So make sure those are both set at 90. We also have on the back side, we have a place where you can plug in a microphone right here. This is working with a mini jack. So if you have a microphone that has a mini or 8-inch plug, you can just put it straight into there. That's for an external microphone. And basically once you plug that one in, it overrides these two, so these two will turn off. Also on the bottom, down here, you have 2 more options. These are using what are called XLR cable plugins, where you can input 2 more external microphones, for example, a handheld microphone, or maybe even some kind of a wired lavalier microphone or wireless lavalier. All right. Also on the bottom, there is a 5-volt DC input. So if you want to use external power rather than using the batteries that are plugged into the bottom. Okay, so let's go over a few more functions that we have here. On this side, there's also the possibility of plugging in headphones, which I think are really, really crucial and important when you're recording audio, to always have some headphones plugged in. So I won't keep them plugged in the whole time now, just to show you how it works. So it's rather simple. You just have an, again, 1/8 inch mini jack plug. Pop it in right in there, and then you're going to have audio output that's going to go to your headphones. There's a few settings that we need to make sure while we're recording or before we're recording to optimize our incoming audio. We shouldn't just regulate what we think is the correct sound or the correct volume by the headphones. We need to do something else. But this, of course, does give us some playback while we're actually recording at the same time. Let me unplug these. We'll just put them off to the side for now. All right, back on this side, to turn it on, there's a button right here. It says hold. You're going to push it that way. So just push it to the right. And while you're pushing it to the right, keep a look in front. And when you see this zoom come on, Then it's going to go through a power up option. Should take just a few seconds. Let's just wait a moment. Okay, looks like we're ready to go. All right, so a few more buttons here that I want to talk about in the front, and I'll get to almost all of these. Our inputs, those are these 3 buttons right here from top to bottom. If you push the top one, and you can see it's already lit red, so that basically powers any kind of, or that's the input of any kind of sound that's coming in through these 2 microphones or the microphone that we have plugged in on the back, the external microphone. If we want to use the microphones that are coming in through the bottom, the XLR cables, then you have to either hit the 1 or the 2 button. So if you click on one of those, you'll see it says now 1, 2. Those are highlighted red. That means now the audio we're getting in through the bottom. But most of the time you'll probably be using these 2 built-in microphones. And if you're going to be using those, then you just hit the top button again, which is mic, and that will give you the input sound from the top. A few other buttons right here. This, of course, is the record button. You push it once, and it's not recording yet. But as you can see, as you look right here on your screen, on this very, very nice display, you'll see that there's a left channel and a right channel, these levels that are bouncing up and down. So there is currently some sound coming into here, and that's probably my voice that it's picking up and coming in. So it hasn't started recording yet, if you notice, because the numbers are still at 0. We do see that there are some incoming audio levels, but the numbers are at 0. And this record button is blinking red. That means it's not a solid red. That means it's not recording. If you want to actually start a recording, you push the record button again, a second time, and now it's a solid red light around here, and you can actually see numbers counting up. That's the amount of seconds of this recording. And of course, you can also see the levels that are bouncing as well. To stop the recording, you don't push the record button, you actually push the stop button, which is right here. Push the stop button, and now it has created a file. Again, to record, hit the record button first time. Now it's in what's called standby mode. It's about to record. It's not recording yet because the numbers aren't going up, but this allows you to monitor your levels, which I'll get to in a moment. To start the recording, push the record button again. Now it's starting the recording. We can see the numbers counting up, and we can see this is a solid red light. To stop the recording, just hit the stop button on the front. Now, if you want to play back any of the files that you just created, there are 4 other buttons right here. I'll go over some of them. Number 2, under File, you push number 2, and now it shows you these are the 2 files that I just actually recorded. So you can listen to these files if you want to. If you want to listen to the current file, you just hit the play button. If you want to get to the other file, which is on top, if you look right here on this side of the recorder, there is a dial, and that is basically a dial that lets us scroll up or down in our menu. So then if you want to listen to that, you can hit the play button. It'll play it back for you. And now it's a solid red light around here. You can actually see numbers counting up. That's the amount of seconds. Which you can hear. So on the back of here, there's actually an external speaker that plays back for us. The speaker's not very good. When you play it back, you probably want to have your headphones on and listen to the playback there. Okay, a few more buttons on the front of our digital audio recorder. The button right here, this is folder. If you push that, it shows you that we have several folders available on our SD card. So let me scroll down. There's folder 1, 2, 3. There's already 10 folders set up for us. And what that basically allows us to do is, let's say we are going to be recording different types of audio files. You're going to have some interviews. Maybe you'll record some music. Maybe you'll record several different interviews. Maybe you'll record ambient sound or natural sound. So you can designate where each of those folders can be used for. Let's say I want to use folder number 1 to record an interview with my person number 1. So I would select that. And to select that folder, I scroll up or down. I decide I want to use folder number 1. And then I go to this dial right here. That dial also acts as a button. So I push the button in. Now, anytime I'm going to make a recording, it's going to go into folder number 1. And let's say I'm going to interview somebody else later on. or a group of people later on, and I don't want to save all those files, those recordings in the same folder, I can go back to folder, scroll down to number 2, push in my button on my dial, and now selects folder number 2. So all new recordings that I make are going to go into folder number 2. And later on, when you pull out your SD card, which is right here on the side, when you pull this out and you put it into your laptop, you put it into your computer, you're going to see it's going to have 10 different folders on there. And in each of those folders, it's going to be, of course, the files that you designated to go in there. All right, so let's go back to folder. Let's go back to folder number 1. I'll select that again. Okay. Next to that is button number 2, file, as I mentioned. That now shows you all the files that are in that folder, and I can play them back and listen to it again. Button number 4, this designates what kind of file format, recording format we'd like to choose. We can record in a WAV file, that's like an uncompressed audio file, or we can record in an MP3 file, which is a compressed version of an audio file. So if you want to think of it similar in photography, if you have an RAW or a RAW file, that's similar to a WAV file. It's very large file format. It records almost all of the information. It's probably one of the best formats that you can use. And as you can see, you can record it at different frequencies, at different bits. So 16-bit, 24-bit, at 44.1 kilohertz, 48 kilohertz, etc., etc. And then, of course, when you get down to the MP3, that's kind of like a JPEG version. And of course, you can again decide how many kilobits per second you'd like to record your audio file. My recommendation is audio files really don't take up that much space as a RAW file would for photos. So I would suggest you use WAV 44.1 kilohertz at 16-bit. So once you've decided your recording format, again, you just hit the button on the side, and that's what you'll be recording at from now on. Okay, a few more other things, and this comes to now the most important part of how we're going to set up our device so that we can start recording some files. On this side again, if we look right here, there's a menu button. If we push in the menu button, we have a bunch of different menu options here. Some of those you'll see, they look familiar. For example, we've got folder and filed and record, inputs with different microphones that we want to use. We can go down a little bit further into SD card. And again, if you want to select the SD card or select this function, you push this spinning dial. Now selects that, and we can format the SD card. Are you sure you want to format? I'll say yes. Please wait. Complete. And of course, now if I look at some files on that SD card, of course it'll say no files because I just formatted the SD card. So there's not really too many things that you need to do with the menu function right now. You do have some buttons, for example, as I said, folder and file and recorder and input and those types of things that you can do externally that you don't have to rely on the menu. Probably the main thing you'd need the menu function for is to format the SD card, or later on when you want to download your files, you need to use a select USB so you can download the files with the cable, external cable for your laptop or your computer. Okay, let's get back out of here. So I'll just click menu and get out of here. So now we're back on our recording side. On our display, you'll see there's lots of information in here. Currently, that black square in the top left, that means it's stopped. We're not recording anything. If we look in the top right, that is the level of power that's left in our batteries, our AA batteries we have plugged into the back. We have a little marker here that shows us we're recording at 44.1 kilohertz at 16 bits. As I mentioned before, on the top, those are our numbers that show that we're recording in the amount of time. It goes down to 1/1000th of a second. We have a left channel and a right channel. And under that, we've got some numbers, -48, -24, -12, -16, and 0. And that means the amount of decibels that we're recording at. I'll talk about that in a moment to make sure that we get the optimal level of our recording. We have an SD card in there that now is enough room to record 3 hours, 5 minutes, and roughly 39 seconds worth of digital audio at 44.1 kilohertz at 16 bits. And that's, again, recording as a WAV file. Okay, here's really the most important part now when it comes to recording audio files and to make sure that they're recorded at the right level. So hit record, as I said, and now you're going to be monitoring your incoming audio levels, left and right audio levels. You never want to get your audio levels bouncing on their peaks, so to say, when they're reaching their ends or the limits, the highest point, the loudest point. You can see sometimes there's a little marker that shows how far or how high we're bouncing up. You never want to get to the point that your levels are bouncing around the zero range. That means you are clipping the noise. You're going to create some, or you're going to record distortion in your audio. And later on, when you try to edit your audio, you actually cannot remove that distortion if it's recorded too loud. If it's recorded too low, as it is basically, as we can see right now, it's a little bit too low. Not bad, but it's a little bit too low. You can boost that volume up later on in the software, but then you might be introducing some audio tone or some hissing or some other background noise. You might boost that up as well. So ideally, when you are recording, you want to try to get your peaks on the left-hand channel and the right channel in stereo to bounce at around -12 to -6. So currently, as I'm talking, these two microphones are picking up my voice. And my standby mode, I can see that I'm probably, if I were to record now with my tone or with my voice as loud as it is, I would probably be recording a little bit too quiet. So I want to boost or bump that incoming audio level so my peaks are bouncing more at -6 to -12. And just to emphasize again, that is not done by the volume levels here. The volume levels on this side only are connected to our headphones. That's the outgoing audio. So we don't care about these right now. We're only going to care about looking at our levels to watch them bounce, and we want to make sure that they're reaching the peaks at around -6 to -12. So if we go to this side of the Zoom audio recorder, and there's something called record level, and you can see it has a minus and a plus. So the best way to do is to just maybe do some testing incoming audio. So if you're interviewing someone, you can just, while you're holding the microphone close to the mouth, you can say, please just recite the alphabet for me, or please introduce yourself to me. So while it's in standby mode, while the person is talking, you can set your incoming audio levels correctly so that these peaks are bouncing between -6 and -12. So let's say for my case, I'm going to continue talking. I'll just say the alphabet, and I want to make sure my peaks are going up to -6 to -12. And I'll use the plus button. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K. So as you can see now, as I'm talking, my audio levels are bouncing right around -6 to -12. Let's go up a little bit more. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D. Let's see. I think we're peaking out at -100. So ideally, I guess I would actually need to get these microphones a little bit closer to my mouth, or maybe have a clip-on microphone and plug that in the bottom. If you see that it's too loud, then of course you just turn your incoming or recording audio levels down. And as you can see, while I turn this down, I'm going to keep talking, those peaks are really now going further and further and further down. So when you've got your recorder in standby mode and you correct your incoming audio levels so that they're peaking between -6 and -12, and once that's all set, make sure that the recorder or the microphone does not move from anywhere, because as soon as you move the microphone somewhere else, those audio levels could either go up or down, and then you could either have a distortion or you could have it recorded too low. But once it's set the way you want it, then you can plug in your headphones, which I have right here. You can plug these in, and then you can set your outgoing audio levels on your headphones. So again, this is the volume level for incoming audio to make sure that you're recording at the right level, and this is the volume settings for the outgoing that goes into your headphones. So just because you have your headphones on and it sounds like it's the right level coming in, doesn't necessarily mean that you're recording at the right level. Okay, the volume on the speakers could be very, very loud. They could be very, very low. All right, so let's say that you want to use some other input microphones rather than these two on top. So when you're using the Zoom H4N digital audio recorder, you probably will use these microphones for sure when you're recording ambient or natural sound. You can also, of course, use these when you're interviewing someone. That just means you need to hold the device very close to their mouth, and I'll give you a demo on how we can do that. But there are some other options that we can use rather than hold the device the entire time by hand. We can plug in a handheld microphone, which, for example, is this one right here. So we can work with something like that, or we can work with a wireless lavalier system. I'll show you what that is. So we've got both a transmitter and a receiver. And then we've also got some additional cables that we're going to work with here. These cables, and this of course is the mic. And if we're going to be using the handheld mic, then we need to use XLR cable, and we've also got a mic stand that we can work with. Okay, so let's deal with these over here first, and we'll come back to the wireless in a moment. Move these out of the way. Okay, so let's say we want to do a handheld microphone interview. We want to use the handheld mic with an XLR cable. Very simple to use. Pop these caps off the cable. We're going to snap this into the bottom of one of the XLR plugins, which will be right here. Take the other end of the cable, snap it into the bottom of our mic, just like that. All right. We'll need to turn the mic on. Flip that up. Let's put it in standby mode. So the last thing we need to do now that we've got this XLR cable and this microphone going in here, we need to switch from these microphone inputs to the XLR microphone inputs. So we'll need to switch to the 1, 2 on the bottom. Now, when we do that, you'll notice, let me just do a little tap here so you can see we've got some audio levels coming in, but we've only got one channel. So we're only using channel number 1 for the left, and we're not using channel number 2. So we have only audio coming in one channel. That means it's recording currently in mono. Now what we can do is we can change this either here or later on in the software so that we have both the left and right channel being recorded for us simultaneously. So let's do that. Let's hit stop here. Let's go into our menu on the side here. Let's go to the input function. With our wheel, we're going to select that. Now we're going to scroll down till we get to our choice of mono mix. That's currently on off. Let's turn that to on. Let's get back out of our menu, Let's hit our standby. And now hopefully we can see that we've got audio levels on both the left channel and the right channel. So when I'm tapping here on the microphone, we can see that, and we're actually recording in mono now, but we're recording on left and right. So that means for the left speaker and for the right speaker. That's exactly what we need. So you can, of course, as I mentioned, you can hand hold this as you're interviewing someone, or we can work with a small mic stand. So just flip out these legs. There's a little clamp right there. Pop it in the clamp, set it up, make sure that it's close enough to your interviewee's mouth. Of course, you'll have to monitor your incoming audio levels and set here record levels here on this side, all right, to make sure that it's bouncing between the -6 to -12. Okay, let's turn this all off for a moment. Let's take this out of the clamp. We'll just set this aside for now. Take this back out the bottom. And now let's have a look at these wireless setup. So we've got some cables that we're going to work with here. Two devices here. And of course, a mic. Okay, so we have two different choices here. We can either go with the XLR in the bottom, or we can go with the mini jack on the back here. So let's use the mini jack first. So let's pop that back because we're going to go the top input. We're going to use our microphone input up there. So we'll need this part that's got like the little kind of L shape on the plug, the 1/8 inch plug. Snap that in the back. Now we're going to go with the mics, as I said, up here. So we're choosing the mic input. We need to find our receiver. This is the receiver. The receiver is a part that's kind of got this extended mount back here. And that mount sometimes you can put on the hot shoe of digital SLR cameras. So if you're going to use maybe a wireless lavalier setup when you interview someone for an A-roll. Screw that into the top. Flip it open. Hold it so it turns on. take our other one, which is our transmitter. Screw that in the top. Transmitter's got this little clip. For example, if you want to clip it in someone's belt or in someone's back or on a pocket. Flip that open, turn it on. Here's the mic. Now, hopefully, when we hit the record button, we'll put it in standby mode. There you can see, as I'm speaking, we do have some sound that's coming into this mic, into this transmitter, being picked up wirelessly by this receiver. The cables are then taking it into our Zoom H4N. Okay, so now we know that we have some kind of incoming sound. Again, you need to adjust your incoming audio levels. Now let's say we'd like to have two different inputs. One is for somebody that you're interviewing, so you're going to use a clip-on mic for them. Let's just slide this aside. Okay, and you also want to use, let's say, a handheld microphone for you as the interviewer. Right? This is for interviewer, and this is for interviewee. So you want two XLR plugs to go in here. Let's hit stop. So now we're going to remove this cable. Put this aside. We're going to now plug in XLR into one of the slots. In this case, it could be the right channel. Screw it back into our receiver. Let's just make sure that we've switched it from mono back to stereo. So input, let's go back to our mono mix. We'll go to off on that, because now we're going to have two plugs on the bottom. Plug in our other mic. Make sure that's on, that's on, that's on. Let's turn to our two inputs down here in the bottom. So we're not going to use the top mics, we're going to use the bottom mics. Standby mode. And as you can see, we do have some sound coming in here. That is on our right channel. And some sound coming in here. That's on our left channel. So we've got stereo coming in on two different XLRs, left channel and right channel. So you can have an interviewer and interviewee both recorded at the same time.